Well, welcome everyone. It's Giving Tuesday, and I am Rex Howe, the president here at Tri-State Bible College, and I'm here with one of our students, Joe Anthony. Joe, how are you today?
All right, how you doing today?
Doing good, doing
Wonderful.
good. Joe, I asked Joe if he'd stop by today. We've had some awesome conversations lately, both in person and through Facebook Messenger, talking about church history, talking about theology, talking about donors and potential donors to the school. And so I just thought we'd sit down and talk a little bit. So one of the things we want to discuss on camera here is church history. So Joe, my favorite, at least right now at the moment, and this changes from time to time, my favorite church history person happens to be Justin Martyr at the moment. And the reason is I've been learning that Justin Martyr, in one of his writings, he talks about something called prosopological exegesis. That's $1 million word, isn't it? But what he did with that is he discovered who the speakers are in the text. And so like Psalm 110 verse 1, I believe it is, that says, "My Lord said to my Lord," or "the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool." Okay? And so what he did with that text was, you have the Lord, the Father, speaking to my Lord, the Son, and then he asked this question. Justin Martyr asked, who is testifying to this conversation that the Father had with the Son? Was David there? Well, David wasn't like there. But it was the Holy Spirit. It was the Holy Spirit, yeah. So he would ask that question: who's reporting on who's reporting to David that this took place?
And that makes sense.
And it's the Holy Spirit. So he saw the Trinity. He talks about the Trinitarian testimony, and really defended the deity of the Holy Spirit. Deep. So you have the Trinity back in Psalm 110. And so because of that, he's kind of my church father favorite at the moment. What about you?
I would probably say mine. I don't know. He's not a church father, but probably my favorite figure is John. And the reason that I say that is because John's life, he was born, or before he was born, he was in his mother's womb. And Elizabeth and Mary, they come into the same vicinity. And he leaps for joy, in the womb. Once he's born, his whole life is dedicated to God, He moves out to the desert, and he basically studies with this group before he starts his ministry. And this is total dedication, just dedicating his whole life to God in the Word, praying, and his ministry starts. He introduces Jesus as the Lamb. He baptizes Jesus. He says that I must decrease and he must increase. Even though he was cousins to Jesus, he absolutely knew who Jesus was, and he absolutely knew who he was in God's will. But the reason I really like John is because he stood for the right thing. He spoke out against fornication. And this is what got him put in jail. And when he was in jail, there's a moment where the enemy begins to throw these fiery darts his way. And this is why I think we have to keep the helmet of salvation on, because these thoughts began to creep into John's mind. And even though he knew who he was and he knew who Jesus was, he sends his two disciples to ask, are you the Messiah? Are you the one we're looking for? Because they came to him and was telling him, oh, we seen Jesus, raise this young man from the dead, and he's doing all these things. And he's in jail for standing up for what he thought was the right thing. So in this moment of, I don't want to say weakness, but in this moment that he's isolated with his own thoughts and his situation, his trial, he begins to question, is Jesus really who he says he is? And to me, this is so powerful because the disciples go and say, John wants to know, are you the one? And Jesus begins to do just all kinds of miracles and healing people and deliverances. And this all ties back to the Old Testament. But he says this to John through the two disciples. He says, don't be offended at me. He says, I am the one. Don't be offended at me. And for that moment, even though John dedicated his whole life to following God, he knew who Jesus was above anybody else on earth at that time. He still fell into this train of thought of, is he God? And I think we all find ourselves in that situation that John was in. We find ourselves alone, going through things that we just can't figure out, we don't understand. And sometimes we question because the enemy always wants to plant that seed of doubt. And, John, his story wasn't a happy ending.
No.
He was beheaded. It's not like they went and talked to Jesus and he brings back good news and then he's released.
Yeah.
He died. He died alone. But because Jesus is the resurrection, what he told to Martha, that applies to John. And that's why John's one of my favorites.
That's awesome, Joe. That's awesome. Just a martyr was executed in the same way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Jesus Christ was and is his hope. Absolutely. In the resurrection as well. And that's great. Well, here's the next question I have for you. So it's Giving Tuesday. All week long, we've had these videos trying to connect with potential donors, current donors, new friends of Tri-State Bible College, and hoping that their potential as givers would connect with our mission as an institution of Christian education. So you wrote me something that talked about connections, and how God connects people. Absolutely. And connects their stories.
Absolutely.
Tell me and our viewers a little bit about how their potential as a giver may have eternal ramifications for connections.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. John speaks about this in chapter 14, where Jesus says he's going to go. It's translated mansion, but really it means room. Okay, and when you think about heaven, this is a reason why you should want to help out in any way that you can, because everybody is connected down here on earth. And when you get to heaven, I think that God is going to allow the ones who are connected through this web to come to you and tell them how you affected them. And this could be someone who is connected through the web that could be 50 years past your time on earth, but it's still, everyone is connected. Because if you give to Tri-State Bible College, and someone who comes to this college, they become a teacher, okay? And then they teach somebody, and that person goes off to Asia or Africa or somewhere, and he's a missionary or she's a missionary. And one of the people they convert start a huge church somewhere and convert all these people who were unsaved, who were in this people group. Well, everybody in that link is connected. And I feel like when we get to heaven, that's one of the things that God is going to allow us to do, is we're going to know all things. And when he's going to allow us to go to someone's room and say, hey, you gave $1,000, or you gave, $5, you helped. And by you doing that, it was like a domino effect. And I was able to do this in Africa, or do this in Asia, or do this in California, everything is connected. And when you think about it like that, one donation or one act of kindness, the ramifications of how many people are actually affected and touched by this, I think it's hard to even ponder right now, because we really we can't see that far. But God is so wonderful that when we lift somebody up, when we give money to help, and with the school, it's really important because there's so many people that come to the school and then go back out. It makes the web that much greater. And if you're someone out there who really wants to follow God's will, and you really want to touch lives, then donating to Tri-State Bible College is a great way to do so, because one day when you're in heaven, you're going to meet people that you didn't even know existed, who's going to come up to you and look you in the eye and say, thank you, because your act of kindness was part of the path of me being here right now.
That's awesome, Joe. I mean, I've got a million thoughts running through my head, but I'm thinking, when the Apostle Paul took the gospel into what is now modern day Europe, it changed our lives.
Absolutely.
When Walter Staten answered the call after 15 years of prayer to found Tri-State Bible College, it changed our lives.
Absolutely.
And so those are just a couple illustrations of the point that you're talking about.
And you can think about your favorite person. A lot of people like Calvin. It doesn't matter who your favorite person is, who inspired them. Mm-hmm. And one day you're going to thank that person if they inspired you. So it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Well, Joe, thanks for your time today, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you next time. It's Giving Tuesday today. We hope that you'll partner with us as we continue to train faithful servants for tomorrow today.
God bless.